Alrighty, welcome everyone to the first class in our fall series from Razan Sahuri's Kitchen, from market to mealtime. Fall season. Razan Sahuri works at the University of Maryland Extension, and she is Howard County, Maryland's SNAP Ed nutrition educator. Razan holds a bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics and a master's degree in public health. Through her work with the University of Maryland Extension, Razan partners with Howard County Public School System, Head Start Centers, and the Howard County Food Bank to deliver nutrition education to students, parents, and teachers. These collaborations are also involve leveraging resources between Maryland SNAP Ed and local community agencies to facilitate greater access to and the availability of healthy food options and influence the adoption of policy, systems, and physical environment changes related to a healthier lifestyle. This material was funded by USDA's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, in cooperation with Maryland's Department of Human Services and University of Maryland Extension, and they are an equal opportunity provider. Razan Sahuri is in her kitchen, and we want to welcome her into your homes today via Zoom.
Hello, thank you for having me. I love our mini series at the library. Today might be a little bit information intensive, but hopefully we will just go through it very quickly. Can you see my screen? I think it's working. Perfect. Okay. So first of all, let me walk you through what we're going to talk about. We're going to learn what's in season in Maryland in the fall in terms of fruits and vegetables. We're going to talk about different ways to prepare those fruits and vegetables. And then we're going to briefly go through the farmers markets that are available in our county. I know we have so many, but we're just going to talk about the ones that are hosted by the county itself. And then I'm going to show you three quick recipes that I hope you try. Before we get started, I just want to ask you a question, and if you'd like to type your answer or unmute yourself or just think about it, but why go to the farmer's market? You know, the farmer's market is only open, say, once a week. It's not convenient all the time, but why bother? Why go to the farmer's market? Anybody would like to share? Okay, I'll tell you why. So one of the great things about going to the farmer's market is, first, we're connecting with our community. It's something close by. We're supporting a local business. We know the farmer. We see the farmer. It's not a business. You know, we're supporting the same person that's growing that produce. We're eating the freshest produce because it just got picked this week, if not yesterday or this very morning. So it's extremely fresh. It is seasonal. So if we're trying to introduce more variety into our food, into our diets, eating seasonal is something that can help us with that. And it is it's a more environmentally friendly way to eat things, because there are no trucks loading, you know, the fruits and vegetables, and they're not, you know, consuming any gas to bring the produce to us. So all in all, it's a great experience. Yes, as I mentioned before, it might not be something that you know, you need to plan for it. You need to plan which day to go or what time to go, because it's not open like the grocery store. But with a little bit of planning, it goes really smoothly. And honestly, the produce is much more amazing. With that, let's start by talking about the produce. We're going to start with vegetables, and then we're going to move into fruit. And you don't need to take any notes. You're going to get a flyer, a handout that has all this information. So it'll have the different kinds of fruits and vegetables, ways to prepare them, and ways to store them. So you'll be fine. So we're going to start talking about winter squash and pumpkins, between brackets, because I feel like they kind of, they're like cousins. They belong to the same family. And as you know, winter squash, they come in so many different shapes. From the outside, there's different kinds, but from the inside, they are pretty much the same. And when I say they're pretty much the same, most of them are a little bit on the sweeter side, and they are bland. They don't really have a strong, pungent flavor. all our squash, even our pumpkins, anything that we get, we really need to scrub very well when we get under running water to make sure they get clean. And then, we usually peel it, cut it, depending, sometimes we don't peel it, we prepare it and then use the flesh. But, in general, we peel it, we don't eat it with the flesh, we cut it, and then we clean it from the inside. So usually that inside, which is the pulp and the seeds, a great thing to do is you can actually use the seeds as a snack. So you can separate the seeds from the pulp, just rinse them, put them on a baking sheet, drying, on a baking sheet, and bake them in the oven. You can add a little bit of salt, you can add a little bit of oil, maybe some pepper. You can just add different spices to it, make it more spicy. But this can be a great way to also use the inside, and it's a cost-effective, nutritious snack. So when we're talking about squash in general, it is so versatile and you can use it in so many different recipes. And there's so many different ways to prepare it. So you can just bake it, cut it in half, remove the seeds, and then flip the flesh side down on a baking sheet and just put it in the oven. And then this way it will bake from the inside. You can roast it as well. And then when you roast it, you can cut it into, say, inch chunks and place it on a baking sheet. You can drizzle it with oil as well. You can add some salt, pepper, or any other spices, and just bake it. Use an oven, like a 400 to 425 oven until it starts browning from the side, and you got yourself a nice side dish. You can boil it as well. Boiling is not very common because of, maybe the consistency, but if you have children, young ones that are starting to eat and you want something that's more on the mushy side or on the soft side, you can boil it. You can also saute it, over a frying pan with some oil. And then again, you can add whatever spices you like. So it is so versatile. And the nice thing about it is that it pairs very well with other fall fruits. So it pairs well with apples, it pairs great with pears or other root vegetables that we're going to talk about today, like carrots, turnips, parsnips, sweet potatoes, and beets. So you can either make this only squash, or you can mix any of the ones I just mentioned, and you can use any of those techniques to cook them. Some other ways to add squash, and even that also applies to pumpkin. You can cook it and then blend it. So you're going to have some sort of a puree, and then you can use that to boost the nutrition of certain dishes and to boost flavor. So you can add them to your pancakes or to your baking. If you're baking your muffins, you can make something like a pumpkin bread, or just add that one scoop even to your sauces. Let's say you're making pasta with like a tomato sauce. You can add like a scoop of that just to make it more creamy and add that nutrition. As I mentioned before, you can roast it with apples or pears, and then you can sprinkle it with, say, pumpkin spice or nutmeg or cinnamon, some of those more quote unquote sweet spices. So for a sweeter side dish, or even as a nice snack, you can also cook it and then blend it with stock, whether it's vegetable or chicken stock, just to make a soup. And today we're making a soup that you're going to see. And then you can mash it, just mash the squash, and then you can add a little bit of honey or maple syrup, and then have that as a dessert. Any questions so far? Am I talking very quickly, or it's okay? I'm trying to, I feel like running through the content. So I'm going to keep talking, and then maybe we'll leave the questions before we start the prep. So now moving to sweet potatoes, also known as yams. There's several varieties out there. So there's the ones that are orange in color, white or yellow. Make sure you scrub them, of course, from the outside with running water and a brush, because there's a lot of times, especially with potatoes, I feel like there's a lot of creases out there. You know, if you don't brush it or scrub it very well, it might not get as clean. And again, just like squash, you can saute it, bake it, mash it, boil it, steam it. I'm not going to spend any more time on that. But what you can also do is, you know, to eat more of it, is make sweet potato fries. And when I say make sweet potato fries, I mean bake them in the oven. You can also cook it and then mash it with a banana for a side dish or a sweet treat. You can also cook it with apples, raisins, and add to it vanilla yogurt. You can also drizzle maple syrup. So a lot of these things, you know, it's all those fall flavors that we're talking about. And because sweet potatoes are sweet, it's so easy to, you know, make them into a healthy dessert in a way. Moving on, we're going to talk about root vegetables. And root vegetables are very common during this time of year, or it's coming. So root vegetables, because they grow in the soil, it's extremely important to clean them very, very, very well from dirt and germs before you prepare them. Again, because they're in soil, it's extremely important to, you know, use a brush, scrub them very well. And then when we talk about root vegetables, you know, we talk about beets, turnips. They usually have thick skin, so make sure you peel it. If you know, it's easier to consume them peeled, but if you like to keep the peel, you know, that it's up to you. One thing that can be used is the green part of those root vegetables. So take beets, for example. You know, the green part, usually what we end up doing is we toss that green part, or even if we're at the farmer's market, we might break it, leave it there. But those leaves, those green leaves, you can treat them just like any other greens. So you can chop them and add them to your salad. You can add them to your soup. You can saute them. Think of them as spinach, the way you cook spinach or kale or Swiss chard. They're very nutritious. They're very easy also to prepare. So you can add them to your casseroles. You can add them to your soups, to your stews, even your omelet. So, you know, don't let them go to waste. And you can also freeze those greens and use them in other dishes that you usually would use, let's say spinach or something like that. Now I'm going to talk about beets and carrots, and it applies to other root vegetables, but that's where I'm spending most of the time. So beets and carrots, obviously you can eat them raw. So you can just slice them and add them to a salad. They might add a little bit of crunch, which is nice. For kids, for example, you can also add, let's say, beets, oranges together, or even canned orange if you don't have oranges, you know, and then like low-fat salad dressing for a fruit/veggie salad, you know, something to add color, the red, the orange, to get kids excited. You can also definitely roast them, peel them, chop them, and then use them. Either, you know, as we talked, you can just roast them and eat them as is, or you can add them to other fall vegetables. And the same thing applies to carrots. You can shred them, you know, add them to any of your salads, or you can cook them. You know, you can cook parsnips, beets, turnips, all of those, and mix them, as I mentioned before, with stock and turn them into soup. It's so easy basically and even you can shred them and put them in the freezer. If you can also use them in baking. So let's say you want to do quote unquote, I'm not going to call it carrot cake, but you can use shredded carrots in baking, let's say in your pancakes as well, or your muffins. So you can add that, and it works with beets as well. You can use beets in your smoothies in the morning as well. So try and, you know, think of different ways to use them. It doesn't all have to be always, let's say, roasted or in a salad. I'm going to breeze very quickly through the cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower, because that's also the time where we can start seeing them, pop up in farmers markets, and they're in season. The nice thing is, you can eat broccoli and cauliflower raw. You can, dip them with something like hummus or a low-fat dip. Same thing that happens with, you can use carrots, for example, the same way for a healthy snack or a crunchy, snack, especially for people that enjoy a crunchy kind of snack. You can also use cabbage instead of carrots. So, instead of lettuce. So in a salad, for example, or let's say you're making tacos, you can add some cabbage. You can add it to your soups as well. You can also add it to your stir fry. Cabbage works great in a stir fry. So you can, whatever vegetables you have, you can all put them together in a stir fry, and that would be great. And usually their shelf life is also, none of these produce that we're talking about have a short shelf life. Usually they're all, at least they would live, that's the minimum of 2 weeks. So usually, the quality is going to start degrading, but they go for a long time. Now we're going to talk about fruits, but are there any vegetable related questions?
We do have one just about how it's hard to find rutabagas, but in the grocery store this time of year.
So if it's in season, you're more likely to find it at the farmer's market. And usually, I was talking to a colleague of mine yesterday. Usually, all the root vegetables in the grocery store are next to each other. So, for example, the parsnips, we're talking about parsnips. You'll find them next to the carrots. So try that. But usually, I don't know. I'm not sure I've seen them in the farmers market, so I cannot confirm. I don't know if any of you have. So if you did, please, write us a message and let everybody know. But yeah, usually if they're in season and they're locally grown, you will find them in the farmers market.
So then we're also getting a big shout out for cauliflower.
Yes, cauliflower is great. And now, with cauliflower rice, and it's like a rice substitute where it's great. I feel like, cauliflower and broccoli, again, they're cousins. They look kind of the same. And then you can use them interchangeably as well in so many recipes. I know the ones that you want more of a bland flavor, you would use cauliflower, and then you can use cauliflower to also make something more creamy when you cook. So moving to fall fruit, we're going to focus on two. They're very similar. It's apples and pears. So the great thing to keep in mind about either apples, pears, any fruit, when you consume the whole fruit, you're consuming the fiber along with all the other nutrients. So it's much better than, consuming the juice. Especially around this time, you might find apple cider or things like that. So always think about the fruit in terms of you're getting all the benefits, you're getting the fiber. So it's a healthier option. And when we talk about apples, the sky's the limit. There are so many varieties. There's so many different colors, so many different flavors in terms of sweetness. And it's so nice that you can grab apples from, the farmer's market, or you can go to an orchard and do an event out of it, like a pick your own. So it's not just the fruit itself, but you can also get your family involved. If you have kids, the kids can get excited about picking their own apples, knowing where their fruit comes from. So all of that, it's that experience around it. And other than just, eating apples by themselves, we can also use them as something that's so simple, and I'm sure you know about it, is where we can slice apples, add peanut butter to it, and have that like a snack, or any nut butter. Or you can do that with a low-fat yogurt dip if you're not into butters. But you're getting the protein from the yogurt, and then you're getting the fiber from the fruit. So it's a great combination. You can also use raw apples and pears in salads. So you can make a coleslaw. You can make today we're actually going to make a Waldorf salad with apples. So it's so easy to use them even in savory dishes. You can also bake them. You can bake them with, say, sweet potatoes for a side. Now, that Thanksgiving is coming. A lot of, the holiday season is upon us. It's a very easy, low cost dish to just, have a side of sweet potatoes, let's say, and apples. And then you can make it as a sweeter dish if you add, let's say, a little bit of maple syrup, or if you add cinnamon or things like that. And always think about when you're thinking of packing apples or pears, the problem with cut or sliced, pre-sliced apples and pears, they turn brown. So one thing to actually do is when you're preparing them, you can just dip them in a lemon water. So, just grab a bowl of water, add to it around 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and then let them sit there, swim there for 3 to 5 minutes. And then you can pick them up, put them in your, container, and they will not turn dark. So even if you're entertaining and you want to prepare ahead of time, you can do that. You can do this. I'm going to show you. I prepared the apples today for our recipe, and I did that maybe at around 10 o'clock, and they're still the same color. All I did was I just dipped them in water with lemon juice. So you can do that as well. If you don't have fresh lemon juice, you can also use orange juice. That might alter the flavor a little bit, but you can use orange juice as well. So anything that's acidic, that would stop the oxidation process. Moving to pears, again, same thing, just like apples. And when we go to the grocery store, especially the grocery store, we find so many different varieties. We have the Asian pears, we have Anjou pears, we have Barlette. So there's different kinds. And at the farmer's market, we sometimes tend to see more than different variety. So what's nice about pears is, again, you can use them in salads, just like, apples. One of the nice salads that you can add, nuts, you can add blue cheese. Blue cheese works great with pears. Even if you don't like blue cheese, you can add any cheese to them, with your regular greens, and then have a salad. You can also make a sauce from it, just like applesauce. You can make a pear sauce and serve it as, a side for, let's say, chicken or turkey or pork. So, if you don't have apples, you can easily substitute apples with pears. Any questions? Okay. So we're going to briefly talk about 2 farmers markets that are available in our county. The first is our Sunday market, which is the Oakland Mills Farmers Market. It's open from May till November 7th. So, during the fall, we'll see a lot of produce there. It's a morning market, so it's from 9 till 1. And the great thing about this market, some of the produce farmers accept benefits. So if you have EBT benefits, if you have senior WIC checks, you can use those to shop fruits and vegetables at the market. The other market that also accepts benefits, not the market itself, but some of the vendors. So you will either see the sticker that they accept, or you can ask them. I know TLV Farms, they do. This is the Wednesday market, and it's right at the library. So, and it's open Wednesdays, so it's tomorrow. It's from 2 to 6, so it's an afternoon market. And we still have until November 3rd, so we still have around 2 months. And some of the farmers as well, they accept benefits. So make sure you check those markets out. And then with that, I am going to open my recipes and move into our 3 demos. Any questions?
Not yet. I think we're all excited for the recipes.
Great. So I'm going to turn this off and then turn this on. We're going to make 3 recipes today. The first is the apple parsnip soup. The second is a Waldorf salad. And the third is just oven baked sweet potatoes. with the apple parsnip soup, so what I did, I divided the recipe into two. So you're going to get half of the recipe right now. So the recipe asks for 4 apples. For example, I used 2. I prepared half of it and I want to prepare half of it with you. So for the recipe, what we need at this point, you need to get a bowl. So we're going to mix all the vegetables together. You need 2 apples that are washed, peeled, cored, and chopped. So I did that. I got the red apples and I used the, the acidic water trick to make sure they don't turn in color. And then you need 2 parsnips, washed, peeled, and sliced. And I didn't know if you're familiar with parsnips, so I wanted to keep it so you can see it. So it's kind of more like a neutral carrot. And then when you peel it, it's white. So I just wanted to peel that with you. And it's hard. I feel like there's not a lot of dishes that we actually use parsnips in. So that's why I wanted to show you just in case you're not familiar with it. And when you peel, try and peel away from you so you don't peel your fingers. Okay. It gets a little bit messy. And we're going to blend this. So this is for our soup. So we're going to blend all of it, but try and have all the slices uniform in size, just so that they cook equally and make it easier for you. So these are 2 parsnips, washed, peeled basically, and sliced now. We're going to add half a large sweet potato, washed, peeled, and chopped. We don't need this. And then half an onion, washed, sliced in chunks. And you're going to get all of these recipes, so you don't have to worry about it. So these are the vegetables that we're going to roast in an oven, basically. Now we're going just to add to them all the other things that we want to add. We're going to add half a teaspoon of salt. And 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Okay, and then you can add 1/4 teaspoon of sage. This is dried sage. This is optional. These are from my grandmother's garden, so I like that. If you don't have that, you can add oregano, or you can add any herbs that you have. And we need a tablespoon and a half of vegetable oil, just something to mix them with. So we're going to mix all of that. And you can do this also on your baking sheet if you don't want to get another bowl dirty to wash it later. So you get your baking dish, and then you just add them. You heat your oven to 450 and you bake it for, for 45 minutes. So once it's done, this is the same quantity as this. It shrinks. So once you have it, you bake it for 45 minutes. Let's put it in the oven. You're going to get a blender for this part now. So I bake them, you bake them for 45 minutes, and then you wait until it cools down. Once they're cold or cool, you're going to add your vegetables to your blender. And you can use, an immersion blender. It doesn't have to be this kind of blender as well. So you get them to your blender, and you need 4 cups of low-fat milk. And this is instead of the cream. If you're using the entire, if you're doubling the recipe, which is the original recipe, you're going to use all, half the gallon, but right now it's just half of it. So you might, if you're doing the entire recipe, you might need to do it in batches. But I think a little bit more. Okay, and right now I'm just gonna blend it. I'm going to put myself on mute so you don't listen to me, the blending sound. I'll be right back.
While Razan is blending, please let us know if you have any questions by typing them in the chat. And as we said, the recipes will all live on our calendar page for this class. And any of the classes that Razan has done in the past, you can just find them by, I think they're usually on the second Tuesday of each month. So you can go back and look at some things that we've cooked before, but I'm getting hungry. I hope you all are too.
And I'm sorry, today we're going a little bit over time. But there's a lot. So after you blend it, you're just going to add it to your pot. And it's already cooked. All you need to do is just heat it, basically. So I'm going to put that on the stove for 15 minutes. And it'll be done. So this is our first recipe, super easy, very quick. And then if you like, I like them roasted, so I made sure they're extra roasted. If you don't, you don't have to. The second recipe is our chicken Waldorf salad. Sorry, it's a Waldorf salad, but the chicken is optional. So you can definitely add chicken. You can add canned chicken, you can add leftover chicken, or now, with Thanksgiving coming, if you have leftover turkey, you can absolutely do that. So for this recipe, you need 1 apple that is basically chopped and peeled, not peeled, keeping the peel. So this way, you have your fiber. So once you do that, you're going to toss it with 2 tablespoons of orange juice. And that's instead of the lemon juice, and just to give it a little bit of flavor. So let's say you're making this fresh, you don't want your apples to turn. So that's what you're going to make. And then you're going to add half a cup of reduced fat mayonnaise to it. Quarter of a cup of chopped walnuts, and everything we add right now is optional. Have a quarter of a cup of raisins or dried cranberries. I use dried cranberries, so whatever you have at home.
Razan, I have a question.
Yes.
I see. Does it look like Granny Smith apples?
Yes, I use Granny Smith, so you can use any apples you like. I like the tartness.
Okay, I was wondering if you could use like other apples. Okay.
Yes, you can use any apples. All of these recipes are, even if you want to use pears, it won't become a Waldorf salad, but it works. 2 stalks of celery washed and chopped. And when I was chopping, I wanted to show you, the tip. This you can actually put in your soups or stews, just to give flavor. So you don't have to, you can even put this in the freezer. And then once you're ready to use it, you can use it. So the recipe asks for half sweet onion chopped, but I had spring onions from my CSA. I wanted to put both, but that's just 1 onion. So I decided to do that. And then another optional part is curry powder, sorry. So 2 teaspoons. I'm not going to put 2 teaspoons because this curry is very strong and it's spicy. So make sure if your curry that you're using is spicy or not. So, and then if you're using chicken, you're going to add the chicken and then mix this up. The nice thing about this salad is it needs to be refrigerated for at least an hour for the flavors to kind of blend and mix together. So you can prepare it ahead of time and then put it in the fridge. The curry smells amazing. If you don't like curry or you're not used to it, you can also use paprika instead. You can omit it all together. You can make, cut them into smaller pieces and turn this into a sandwich if you have chicken in it. So, now it's ready to be refrigerated for an hour, and then it'll be ready for my husband, I think, to enjoy it later. And then for our final recipe, it's very easy, very quick, kid-friendly. It's the oven-baked sweet potato planks. So what you need is you need to get one, your fresh sweet potato. You need to cut it in half. That's the hard part. No peeling. So you prepare your oven to 400, and then you cut it into half. And then you try and cut it into roughly 8 pieces. That doesn't always work with me, but uniform pieces if you can. And then you're going to bake this for 20 to 30 minutes. And then you can add, once it's done, you can put it on the broil for 3 minutes each side. Let's get rid of this. What we're going to do is we're going to use spray as well, oil spray. If you don't have spray, no worries. You can use any oil you have at home. Sorry about that. For some reason today, my do not disturb is not working. Okay. All right, so now that the exercise part is done, you just grab your baking sheet and you put them next to each other. And you can see that my baking sheet is really loved. Although I tried cleaning it so many times, it doesn't work. So you're going to spray it with oil. And then add just a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. And you just put it in your oven. And this is what you'll get when it's done. So the more you leave it, it'll become crunchier. For some reason, when I broiled it on this side, it broiled more than this side, but this is great, as a snack. It's great as a side dish. You can eat it hot, you can eat it cold. It's so versatile, so easy to make, and it's yummy. And with that, we're done with our 3 recipes. Any questions? You're going to get all the recipes, by the way. So you're going to receive the recipes that I prepared today, along with other recipes as well. Any questions, concerns, comments?
We're all very hungry.
I'm hungry too. And when you roast the vegetables, it smells amazing. So, and the nice thing about these soups, you can prepare them ahead of time and then you can freeze them. So you don't have to use all of them at once. You can, prepare them, freeze them, and then put them in your either small portions whenever you need one. You just take it out and either throw it in the fridge and then heat it, or just put it on the stove and heat it.
I'm going to make that the sweet potato planks today because I think I have a sweet potato sitting at home. You got me inspired. Looks so good.
Great. Any other questions? I see someone raising their hand. I'm not sure if it's by mistake or not.
If you were raising your hand, we've allowed you to talk. You can unmute yourself and ask Razan a question. And I'm also going to post in the chat. We're going to see Razan back in October 12th, the second Tuesday of the month, for healthy celebrations, and on November 9th for a healthy Thanksgiving. And we're going to finish it up, but we're going to twist it around a little bit. We're going to go to the first Tuesday in December for From Market to Mealtime winter season. They're all at 2 p.m. on Tuesdays, and I'm going to post those links into the chat.
Yes, and to my knowledge, I think all of those links will be emailed to participants, correct?
Yes.
Yes, because somebody was asking, so yeah. All right, so thank you so much for joining me, and I'd love to hear back from you. When you get the recipes, my email is there, so if you try them, you like them, you don't like them, you change something to them, please feel free to share that with me. I'd love to hear from you.
We want to thank everybody for coming today. We're so glad that you're here. Razan's going to stick around. I'm going to type her email in the chat. She loves to hear from you. She loves to hear any tweaks you've made to the recipes.
How they turned out.
So please share with her.
Done, you can stop the recording.
And then we also have and if you have a question that you'd like to ask, we'll stick around for a minute, but we are going to turn off the recording.